Thanks a lot. Karen Corla. We had a budget that trumpeted the fact that it's giving a so-called baby boost to new parents, children of €420. That's it. Won't go very far. And now, before midnight, in effect from tomorrow morning, we've got a measure which is going to give a very substantial baby boost to the wealthiest 3% of households, worth €21,450. It is one of the great tricks of Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil to try to pretend that ordinary people are impacted by inheritance tax. The vast majority of people are not, will never be in their life. There's actually a very good research done by the CSO. It's called the Intergenerational Transfer of Wealth 2020. And what they found is that 30% of households have received an inheritance at some stage in their life. Only 30%, so less than one in three. 2/3 of households will never get a substantial inheritance at all. Of that 1/3, which will tend to be the richest 1/3, the average inheritance that they get is €80,000, coming nowhere close to the existing threshold. Barry Rowntree looked into the figures in more detail and discovered that about 3% of households would go over the old threshold. So this is a tax break, a substantial tax break for some of the richest people in the country. That's the reality. Yeah, it's not just as pure as the richest 3% in the country, because it's impacted by how many children there are and so on. That's true. But basically you have a tax break for the richest people in the country. That's at a time when we have thousands of children, 4,500 children growing up in hotels and emergency accommodation that are potentially going to be impacted for their entire life on that. That's when we have 1 in 10 families driven to use food banks in order to be able to feed their kids. When 1 in 3 families say that they have to cut back on meals to ensure that the kids can eat properly. And yet we have a government that wants to ensure that children of some of the richest families in the country can get a tax break of another €21,450. It is really scandalous. It hasn't got enough attention, I think, and the truth, the reality of the fact of just what a class-based measure this is, the small numbers of people that it benefits, hasn't, I think, been the focus of enough discussion. I think it really is scandalous that the government is making this decision at a time when so many people struggle to get by.
Now, quite a number of